Picture this, a brightly lit convenience store after dark. Fluorescent lights humming overhead. The smell of coffee and cleaning products in the air. It should feel safe, right? Normal. Just another quick stop for snacks or gas. But what happens when that ordinary place becomes the setting for your worst nightmare? When the person standing in the aisle next to you isn't who they seem? When the late-night run for chips turns into a fight for survival? Tonight, I'm sharing 3 true stories that happened at 7-Eleven stores. 3 nights, 3 people, 3 encounters that changed their lives forever. Stay with me, because after hearing these, you might never look at a late-night convenience store the same way again. That Thursday evening started like any other. My mom had promised to take me to 7-Eleven for a Slurpee, one of those simple treats that makes being a kid special. I was probably annoying her about it all day, bouncing around the house, debating between cherry and blue raspberry like it was the most important decision of my life. When we finally pulled into the parking lot, the sun had just set. The store glowed like a beacon against the darkening sky, that familiar orange and green sign cutting through the twilight. Inside, the fluorescent lights were almost too bright, making everything feel surreal and overexposed. The store was quiet. Besides us, there were only 3 other people inside. Behind the counter stood the night shift employee, a young guy who looked barely out of high school, scrolling through his phone during the lull between customers. Near the scratch-off lottery display, a middle-aged woman in a business suit was carefully selecting cards, studying each one like she was choosing stocks instead of scratch tickets. And then there was him. The third person in the store was different. Wrong, somehow, though at first I couldn't put my finger on why. He was pacing slowly down the aisles, hands stuffed deep into the pockets of a filthy hoodie that looked like it hadn't been washed in months. His movements were deliberate but aimless, like he was pretending to shop but not actually looking at anything on the shelves. What really got my attention was how he kept stopping to stare at people, not just glancing, the way you might accidentally make eye contact with a stranger. No, this was different. He would freeze mid-step, turn his whole body toward whoever was nearby, and just stare for long, uncomfortable seconds that seemed to stretch into minutes. At first, I tried to ignore him. I was too busy with the serious business of choosing my Slurpee flavor. Cherry or blue raspberry? Maybe mix them? The machine hummed as I filled my cup, carefully creating the perfect swirl of both flavors. But when I looked up from my masterpiece, I found him staring directly at me. His eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my stomach drop. I looked away immediately, that instinctive response when you accidentally meet a stranger's gaze. But even with my eyes on the floor, on the Slurpee machine, on literally anything else, I could feel his stare burning into me like a physical weight. I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe he was just weird. Maybe he had some kind of condition. Maybe I was being paranoid. But then something shifted. The woman at the register finished her transaction, gathering her scratch cards with a satisfied smile. The little bell above the door chimed cheerfully as she pushed it open and stepped out into the night. And just like that, the whole atmosphere in the store changed. It was subtle at first, almost imperceptible. But it was there, heavy and oppressive, like someone had sucked half the air out of the room. The bright fluorescent lights seemed dimmer somehow. The cheerful jingle playing over the store's speakers sounded distant and tinny. My mom had wandered toward the refrigerated section at the back of the store, looking for a bottle of water. I followed her, my Slurpee clutched in both hands, my sneakers squeaking against the clean linoleum floor. And so did he. He drifted behind us like a shadow, not even pretending to be shopping anymore. His hands were still in his pockets, his eyes still fixed on me. 1 second, he was 3 aisles away. I could see him through the gaps between the shelves, a dark figure moving parallel to our path. The next second, his reflection appeared in the glass door of the refrigerator, right behind me. So close I could have reached back and touched him. My heart started pounding. "Hey," his voice was low and smooth, almost friendly. "What's your name, sweetheart?" That word, sweetheart. The way he said it made my skin crawl, made something deep in my gut scream that this was wrong, wrong, wrong. I opened my mouth, But before I could answer, before I could even process what was happening, my mom stepped between us. She moved fast, protective instinct overriding everything else. It happened so fast that even now, years later, I can't piece all of it together in the right order. My memory of those moments is fragmented, like a film reel with half the frames missing. Something moved fast from behind the black van parked next to our car. A blur of motion in my peripheral vision. A hand shot out, then an arm, then another. Before I could scream, before I could even understand what was happening, the man was on me. His hand clamped around my upper arm with inhuman strength, fingers digging into my flesh so hard it felt like fire ripping across my skin. "Come here," he snarled, his face suddenly inches from mine, twisted with rage and something worse, something hungry. He yanked me toward the van with such force that my feet left the ground. My Slurpee exploded on the pavement, ice and syrup spraying everywhere. The sound of it seemed impossibly loud. His grip didn't feel like a regular person grabbing you. It felt like claws, like something inhuman digging into my arm, cutting off circulation, crushing muscle against bone. I screamed. Not a normal scream. Not the kind you make when you're startled or playing around. This was something primal, something that tore out of my throat without conscious thought. A raw animal sound that shredded my vocal cords and filled the empty parking lot. My mom lunged after me instantly, her hands grabbing my other arm, pulling me back toward her with desperate strength. For a horrible, surreal second, I was the rope in a violent tug of war. Two adults pulling me in opposite directions, my joints screaming in protest, my arm feeling like it might tear right out of the socket. Then he punched her. The sound was something I'll never forget. A sickening, meaty thud that seemed too loud, too final. It was followed immediately by my mom gasping, the air forced from her lungs by the impact. Her glasses flew off her face, skittering across the pavement with a scraping sound. I saw them land near the tire of a nearby car, one lens cracked. I saw blood spray from her mouth, then drip down her lip in a steady stream. She'd bitten her tongue, or maybe her lip had split. In the harsh parking lot lights, the blood looked almost black. But she didn't let go of me. He punched her again. This time I heard a crack, sharp and terrible, as his fist connected with her nose. The sound echoed in my ears, mixing with her cry of pain and my own screaming. Blood poured from her nose, running down her chin, staining her shirt. Her face was already starting to swell, her left eye puffing up, discoloration spreading across her cheekbone. "Let go of my daughter," she choked out, her voice thick with blood and pain, but still strong, still defiant. My legs felt like lead, useless and heavy. I tried to help, tried to kick him, but I was in shock, my body not responding the way it should. The man wrapped his arm around my waist, lifting me half off the ground like I weighed nothing. My feet kicked uselessly at the air. I thrashed and sobbed, snot and tears running down my face, mixing with my screams. He dragged me closer to the van's open sliding door. I could see inside now, could see blankets and trash and things I didn't want to identify. The smell hit me, stale and sour and wrong. Mom was still holding onto me, her bloody hands slipping on my arm, but never releasing, never giving up. But I could see she was fading. The punches had taken their toll. Her grip was weakening. Her breathing was ragged and wet sounding. The man understood it too. He started laughing, a horrible, triumphant sound that made my blood run cold. He pulled harder, confident now, knowing he was winning. I thought it was over. I thought he was going to get me into that van, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that if he did, I would never come home. I would never see my room again, never hug my dad again, never grow up or go to college or have a normal life. This was it. This was how my story ended, in a 7-Eleven parking lot, at the hands of a monster. Then I saw headlights. Two cars pulled into the lot simultaneously, their tires crunching loudly on the pavement, engines rumbling. Both drivers saw what was happening immediately and started shouting, their voices cutting through the night. The man froze. It was only a second, maybe less. But it was enough. His grip loosened just slightly, his attention divided. He shoved me away hard. I stumbled backward, off balance, my arms windmilling. Then he bolted into the driver's seat of the van. The door slammed shut. The engine roared to life with a deep, throaty sound. The van shot out of the lot, so fast the tires screeched, leaving black marks on the pavement. It fishtailed slightly as it hit the street, then disappeared into the night, taillights fading into the distance. I hit the ground hard, my palms scraping on the rough concrete. Pain bloomed in my hands and knees. When I looked down, I saw blood smeared across my palms, little bits of gravel embedded in the skin. My mom collapsed next to me, still clutching her face, still reaching for me like she thought I might slip away again. Her hands found mine, bloody fingers intertwining. People ran toward us. I remember voices, urgent and concerned, overlapping each other. "Oh my God, are you okay? I'm calling 911. Did you see that? Did everyone see that? Someone get a first aid kit from inside." One person called the police, while another checked on my mom, kneeling beside her, asking questions she could barely answer through her broken nose and bleeding mouth. My ears were ringing, a high-pitched whine that made everything sound distant and muffled. My vision felt blurry, like I was looking through water. Shock, probably, my brain trying to protect me from processing what had just happened. But I remember looking at my mom, really looking at her. Her face was swollen, already turning purple and yellow. Blood ran down her chin, dripping onto her shirt in steady drops. Her left eye was almost swollen shut. Her nose sat at a wrong angle. And yet she was still trying to comfort me, still trying to be strong, even though she'd just taken multiple punches to the face. Even though she just fought off an adult man trying to kidnap her daughter. At the hospital, doctors confirmed what we already knew. Her nose was broken in 2 places. They had to reset it, a procedure that made me feel sick just thinking about. Her cheekbone was badly bruised, the bone itself possibly fractured, though they'd need more scans to be sure. She needed stitches above her lip where the skin had split, the needle going in and out while I held her hand and tried not to cry. I remember sitting beside her hospital bed that night, crying until I had no tears left, until my eyes were swollen and my throat was raw. The nurses kept checking on us, bringing water and blankets, speaking in soft, gentle voices that made me cry harder. The police came later, 2 officers with notepads and concerned expressions. They took our statements, their faces growing grimmer as my mom recounted the attack. They told us they'd already pulled the security camera footage from the 7-Eleven. "Would you like to see it?" one officer asked carefully. "Sometimes it helps with processing. Sometimes it makes things worse. It's your choice." My mom and I looked at each other. Then we nodded. Watching the footage from the outside was surreal and horrifying. We saw ourselves enter the store, saw me picking out my Slurpee while the man watched. We saw my mom confront him, saw him leave. Then the camera angle switched to the parking lot feed. We watched ourselves walk to the car, unaware that he was waiting behind the van. We saw him emerge and grab me. We saw the entire attack play out in grainy black and white. Seeing how close he came to getting me inside, that van made me physically sick. I had to look away, bile rising in my throat. If those cars hadn't shown up when they did, if my mom had let go, if. The officers told us they were analyzing the footage, trying to get a clear shot of his face and the van's license plate. They promised they'd catch him. 3 days later, the detective called. "We got him," she said, and I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. They'd caught him trying to use the same van, parked outside a different convenience store, watching another young girl. This time, patrol officers spotted him before he could make a move. He'd been living out of that van, the detective told us. We found evidence, signs that he'd done similar things before, attempted abductions. But this time he didn't succeed. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was softer. "Your mother fought like a woman with nothing to lose. She saved you. You know that, right?" I did know. I knew it every time I looked at her healing face, at the fading bruises and the scar above her lip. Sometimes, even now, I wake up at night shaking. My arm tingles where his fingers dug in, phantom pain that reminds me how close I came. I can still feel his hand on my arm, can still smell that sour stench from inside his van. But then I remember the other hand, the one that never let go. My mom's hand, bloody and shaking, but iron strong, refusing to release me even when it cost her. The truth is, she didn't just save me in that parking lot that night. She saved every birthday I'll ever have. Every Christmas morning, every graduation, every wedding dance, every ordinary Tuesday afternoon. She saved every tomorrow I might have never seen. I look at her now, years later, fully healed, but still carrying faint scars. That white line above her lip, the way her nose sits just slightly crooked, the way she sometimes touches her cheekbone when it's cold out, like it remembers being broken. And I realize those aren't just marks of what was done to her. They're proof of what she fought for. They're proof that love is stronger than fear, stronger than pain, stronger than a monster in a parking lot. People say I survived a monster that night. But I didn't just survive. I survived because my mother loved me more than she feared him, more than she valued her own safety, more than anything else in the world. And that's a love that saves lives. I swear this happened exactly the way I'm about to tell it. Every detail is burned into my memory, vivid and terrible, like a nightmare I can't wake up from. It was around 12:40 a.m. when Bailey shook me awake. Through my half-closed eyes, I could see her silhouette against the bedroom window, her hair a mess of tangles, one hand resting on her swollen belly like she always did now that she was 8 months pregnant. "Kyle," she whispered, and even in my sleep-fog state, I could hear the discomfort in her voice. "I'm starving. Please, can you get me something? I need chips and maybe a donut and something spicy." Pregnancy cravings were unpredictable. We'd learned that over the past 8 months. Sometimes it was pickles at 3 a.m. Sometimes it was ice cream with hot sauce. Tonight, apparently, it was chips and donuts and something spicy, a combination that made no sense, but that Bailey needed with desperate urgency. She looked genuinely uncomfortable, shifting from foot to foot, her free hand pressed against her lower back. The baby was probably doing gymnastics in there, pressing on her stomach, making her hungry at the worst possible times. I sighed, but I sat up. All right, I'll go." "You're the best," she murmured, already heading back to bed, relief evident in her voice. I grabbed my hoodie from the floor where I'd tossed it earlier, slipped on my shoes without bothering to tie them properly, and stepped outside into the cool night air. The ride to the 7-Eleven near our street was short, maybe 5 minutes, so I took my bike. The streets were empty at this hour, street lights casting yellow pools of light every few yards. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Otherwise, the night was silent. The bright fluorescent lights of the 7-Eleven felt like stepping into a different world, a bubble of harsh brightness in the dark night. The automatic doors slid open with a whoosh, and the night shift worker glanced up from his phone and nodded at me, already looking half asleep. I went straight to the shelves, moving quickly, wanting to get home before Bailey's craving intensified. I grabbed her favorite chips, 2 chocolate donuts with sprinkles, and even those sour gummy worms she loved. On the way to the register, I impulsively added a pack of cigarettes. I don't smoke much anymore. Bailey hates the smell, complains that it gets in my clothes and hair. So I usually sneak one outside before heading home, a guilty pleasure I can't quite give up. I paid, stuffed the junk food into my hoodie pockets, and stepped back out into the night. To the right of the entrance was the usual smoking spot, a dark corner sheltered from the wind. A few milk crates served as makeshift chairs, and the wall was covered in old graffiti and faded stickers. The problem was the area was really dark. The single light that used to illuminate this corner had died months ago, and apparently no one had bothered to replace it. The whole corner was shrouded in deep shadows, barely touched by the spill of light from the store's windows. And the smell. God, the smell. It hit me as soon as I stepped into the smoking area. Something rotten, putrid, like meat left out in the sun for days. I wrinkled my nose, assuming someone had tossed spoiled food near the dumpster nearby. I shrugged it off. I just needed a few minutes, one quick cigarette, then I'd head home. I leaned against the wall and pulled out a cigarette, placing it between my lips. My lighter was in my hand, thumb on the wheel, when I heard it. A whimper. At first, I thought it was a cat. The sound was high-pitched and plaintive, the kind of noise a hurt animal makes. We had a lot of strays in the neighborhood. Finding one injured near the dumpster wouldn't be unusual.